You don't need
Yeah.
it, my friend. You
Oh,
have a
yeah.
real life MBA. Ron,
Yeah.
to wrap up, I always pose this question to all of our guests, and I mean, you've had such a rich life, and you're such a young guy. I mean, you're there's lots of chapters left. Can you leave our audience with three timeless takeaways?
Yeah. Um, so one, I think, so I don't know if these are timeless. These are just top of mind. One, I think one of the most important questions, and I keep talking about this, that leaders should be asking their teams is a reverse NPS question, I guess, which is if you really want to know, because this great resignation's happening, but I think it's a look in the mirror moment because it's not
Yeah,
happening to me.
yeah,
It's not happening to me, and I'm in an old industry, and so I call a little bit of BS. People hate when I say that, but if you really want to find out what's going on, then if you have the courage as a leader or entrepreneur, I'd encourage you to ask the question to maybe you do this anonymously, but you ask the question to all your staff, knowing what you know about this position, this company, and your position today, would you be excited to reapply for the role? And I encourage you to do that. And if you don't, then you probably know the answer to that question from some people. So that's one piece. Um, Two, because I think this is timely. A lot of talk about coming back to the office. A lot of talk. We were hybrid before the pandemic, so we didn't really miss a beat. But what we found is that people just didn't come around. There was no water cooler talk, and water cooler talk is actually important. There's some alignment that happens there before meetings, after meetings,
yeah.
which don't happen on Zoom too much. It just doesn't happen. And so, a few things that I think are important is because I see people like come back to the office, come back, or now there's a new Google ad. The president of Google said there'll be blood shed on the streets. But what I think people are missing on that narrative is we're back to change management. I have new behaviors now. I like being at home. I'm going to be in my sweatsuits and blah, blah, blah. So then the question is, how do you change my behavior and what's in it for me? Back to change management, traditional change management. And I think there's a few key points. We are seeing people burn out because the gray area of no downtime to and from the office to decompress. But more importantly, the lack of human connectivity, which there's energy given from that, will also cause us to burn out. If there's a lack of human energy and that happens, you can't get that on Zoom. And then the other thing is, I think that the skill building of younger generations, maybe not the older so much, but of younger skill building of EQ, reading the room, understanding energy, building their EQ, presenting that'll hinder them later because someone who spent time at the office or with their coworkers will build up those skills and win the long race, win that next job. And so I just think we have to be a little more thoughtful about how that's presented. And of course, the last piece is what we do is quarterly on a quarterly planning session. Every quarter now, not only do I have people read the chapter on building relationships because we take that for granted. We think that because someone is a leader or built a company or had a job for X amount of time, that they really understand the skills of listening and building relationships. And that's why that chapter's in the book. Nothing can happen without building relationships. So we encourage people to understand that and then commit to relationship building. So every quarter, if you and I don't know each other that well, we don't really have a relationship, we'll commit to going for a walk, going for a coffee, not talking about work, but we're committing to building relationships. So we have to start building our companies around the new world. And so, I know that was maybe more than just one, but the key thing there was looking at ourselves in the mirror, really looking about what's in it for the individual from a change management perspective, and then doubling down on relationships. Now is the time to double down on relationships in the organization.
Uh, that's just so profound. And again, as you're speaking, I'm thinking of the words of Margaret Heffernan, who I interviewed on the show last season, and she talks about the power of investing in social capital, which essentially she uses the metaphor of the mortar between the bricks. In order to build a robust structure, you must ensure that the mortar is applied between the bricks, and that's the social capital that you're referring to in terms of the water cooler conversations, encouraging your team to invest in those relationships to ultimately strengthen the team and ultimately the organization.